This meeting will come to order. Welcome everyone to our first board meeting. We had a work session, but our first board meeting of the new year. This evening, our pledge will be led by an All-American from Central Magnet, Ms. Taylor Cuneo. You'll stand. Thank you, ma'am. It's not often we get to be led by an All-American, so that's really cool. Tonight's moment of silence, we'd like to remember a few people who have passed away during the past few weeks. Our transportation, Mike Snell, lost his mother during the holidays, and please accept our sincerest condolences, Mr. Snell. So, longtime bus contractor Jimmy Baltimore passed away last week. And Peggy Jernigan, the wife of former school board member and principal Donald Jernigan, passed away during the holidays also. So we've lost some people very close to us. So if you'll join the board in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, now to board business. Approval of the agenda. Have a motion by Mr. Young.
Second.
Second by Mr. Holliday. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With none. Approval of the consent agenda. Mr. Hodge.
Second.
Second by Mr. Holliday. Again, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Okay, okay. No visitors. Okay. Mr. Odom, recognition.
We do have a recognition tonight. I'm going to ask Principal Dr. John Ash to step up to the microphone. Ms. Taylor Cuneo, who's been named the Tennessee Gatorade Girls Cross Country Runner of the Year. But please introduce your coaches and others that are part of this.
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Ash.
Ms. Cuneo, earlier this year also won, well, I guess last year now, but won the state cross country championship as a freshman. She is a freshman at Central, and we're very proud of her. Alan Nichols is her coach, and he will give you some details about her.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Alan Nichols, and I'm the high school cross-country coach at Central. It has been a pleasure to work with Taylor, both on cross-country this year, and she's also a student in my AP Human Geography class. That was just one of her A's among straight A's for her first semester as a high school student in a rigorous magnet program. She made her high school debut back in August. By mid-September, she had burst onto the national stage with a first-place finish at Trinity Valkyrie in Louisville, Kentucky. As we started for fall break, we traveled to Oakville, Alabama, where we competed at the Jesse Owens Classic, where Taylor wowed spectators with the blistering time of 17:27, and that's 3.1 miles in 17 minutes and 27 seconds for a first-place finish, and that's also a school record. She only followed that up with a championship at both the Mid-State Cross Country Association championships in October, as well as Dr. Ash said, at the AAA State Championship in November. On a side note, this is the second consecutive year that we've had an individual state champion at Central Magnet. Finally, in December, Taylor competed at the Nike Cross Nationals in Portland, Oregon, where she finished 8th, and that's 8th in the country. As expected with these kinds of results, she has deservedly started racking up accolades. For starters, she was crowned as the Mid-State Cross Country Association Runner of the Year. She also had the rare distinction of being first Team All-State as a freshman. In addition, she's currently ranked number 16 among all runners in the country, all female runners in the country. As a result of her hard work and success, she's been recognized with the All-American Award, as you pointed out earlier this evening, and now she's been honored as Tennessee Female Gatorade Runner of the Year. And I want to remind you all that she's done all of this in the first semester of her freshman year. But Taylor's more than just an athlete. She embodies all of the things any coach would dream of in a student athlete. She has a great support network at home. I'd argue that Taylor's father is the best coach and advisor that she could possibly have. She also has great support from our administration. Dr. Ash, Dr. Guthrie, and Ms. Martin do a wonderful job. Furthermore, her work ethic and her dedication to excellence is the perfect example for her teammates and her classmates to develop into an important leader for our Lady Tiger cross country program. Even with her undeniable talent, Taylor remains quite humble and has kept her sights set on becoming even better. It goes without saying that it has been a pleasure to work with Taylor this past season. I'm very excited about the future and Taylor with what she has ahead of her. Thank you.
Taylor, would you like to say anything? Maybe this is your time on TV. If you have anything you'd like to say, tell us how you have accomplished this. Yes, you can pull it down some if you like. Sure.
Okay, well, I started my freshman year, and I was really nervous about everything, I guess. And I don't really know. I'd just really like to thank my coach and my principals for supporting me and my family. They've been such a great help to me. And I don't really know. I just really am thankful for all the opportunities that I've had this year.
You're creating opportunities too, I think, at the speed.
Have you even thought about the university that you would like to attend? Has that crossed your mind yet?
I haven't really thought about colleges yet. I guess I should probably start thinking about them now.
I expect you'll be getting some letters there. Quite a bit of correspondence. You may want to get a bigger mailbox. I will say,
yeah, I think a performance of this caliber certainly deserves a round of applause. Yeah.
great.
Thank you.
I can certainly tell you that we're all very proud of you, and as well as your parents and your school. So congratulations. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Odom, we'll move to number 8.
Number 8 is financial matters. This is a land purchase for the Eagleville practice fields. This amendment uses $44,000 from the Capital Projects Fund, account 34685, committed for capital projects, in order to purchase 1 acre of land from John and Judith Turner for $40,000. The Turners will donate 2 acres of land as part of this purchase. The remaining $4,000 will be used for closing costs. This land will be used for practice fields for Eagleville High School. The lease for the existing practice field is being canceled. We are also asking the board to approve the land purchase contract with the Turners, contingent on Rutherford County Commission approving the funding. Recommend approval. Motion to amend $44,000 from account 34685, Fund 177, committed for capital projects, in order to fund the purchase of 1 acre of land for the Eagleville practice field, and to approve the land purchase contract with John and Judith Turner as presented, subject to approval of funding by the Rutherford County Commission.
You heard the recommendation? Move
Second.
Second by Mr. Jordan. Any comments or questions?
You know, we talked on Tuesday night at the work session about all the moving parts that went into making this happen, and I just want to echo the sentiment that was expressed there, and you know, a lot of specific names were mentioned at that time, but there were county commissioners that helped out in this negotiation. Our board attorney, Jeff Reed, played a role, as well as Chairman Wayne Blair, and just all of this is excellent citizenship. The donation is greatly appreciated, and I just want to echo those sentiments from Tuesday night of appreciation for the wonderful citizenship and collaborative effort that's brought this together.
Specifically, Commissioner Pettis Reed was instrumental in making this happen, so we're extremely grateful to him for his efforts. All right, having heard the recommendation, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and B.
B is the request additional staff move to $35 per month phone reimbursement. Mr. Zago is requesting that Amy Wise, Nona Hall, Trey Duke, Lisa Bogle, Barbara Powers, Shirley Bell, Phyllis Washington, and Tom Delbridge, our instructional department coordinators, be added to the list of those who are eligible to receive a $35 per month reimbursement toward the cost of their personal cell phones for work purposes. All of the coordinator positions require that they be out in the schools on a regular basis. Recommend approval. A motion to approve adding our instructional coordinators to the list of those who are eligible to receive a $35 per month reimbursement towards the cost of their personal cell phones for work purposes.
So moved.
Mr. Holliday and Ms. Moore would like the general public to know that, again, we've had a work session, and although we're moving through these quite rapidly, but we had considerable conversation about all of these line items on Tuesday. So, any comment or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 9.
Number 9 is proposed changes in the Rutherford County Schools 2015-16 academic calendar, and we had previously approved that because parents need to book vacations and that sort of thing. They need to know way ahead. The thing that we discovered, though, unbeknownst to us, and I think the city schools too, we then realized that the presidential primary for Tennessee would be March 1st, which we had as a regular school day. And we had 21 of our schools are polling precincts or places. So the recommendation is that we will extend the school year by one day to from May 26th to May 27th, and that would be a day out of school. That way we would not have students in the school the day that we are polling for the presidential primary, since that's a rather large election day. Doesn't change anyone's vacation or other things. If they booked anything, it shouldn't really have an effect on anything.
So did you read the actual recommendation?
The recommendation is to approve the proposed changes to Rutherford County Schools 2015-16 academic calendar as presented.
Having heard the recommendation? I'll move. Mr. Estes? Second by Mr. Hodge. Any questions or comments?
Are there other elections that spring? I would think that there would be, but I don't know that there are.
Did the city decide to go with to align more with the
They did?
county? So we had in the past, and somewhere like Blackman Elementary was actually caught on both city and county elections or so. But I think that year, I'm not sure whether there'll be another one or not. But this will be one of your largest for sure.
When do we set the calendar for the following school year?
We typically do it in the fall for the next year, so that people, after January 1st, a number of people will call us and say, I've got to book my vacation next year. Can you tell me when fall break and spring break might be? So we try to work at least a year out about. Was 16, 17. So that one's going to be about 2 years out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did we vote? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Joyce. I'm glad you keep me straight anyway. So, having heard the recommendation, we've already got a first and a second, though, haven't we? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Okay, number 10, Part A will be Mr. Holliday for the federal legislative process, and Mr. Hodge will be for the Tennessee legislative process.
After the discussion we had on Tuesday evening, I brought for you this evening 3 things that I want to look at. I will say, before we get into those specific documents, this week, Senator Alexander introduced a starting point for the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. We talked on Tuesday evening about how that was originally adopted in 2002, expired in 2007, and we've been on year-to-year waivers from the Department of Education since then. So Senator Alexander started off with, a mere 387 pages, which I printed 4 pages to a sheet, double-sided. So that's his 387 pages. I remembered and did a little research that the House had actually passed a reauthorization in the previous congressional session. It was 590 pages. I checked with Congressman Desjarlais, and it does indeed go away. So they can't reach back and grab that. So it has expired and gone away. They'll have to adopt yet another one. So it looks like Senator Alexander's efforts and his bill is going to be the starting point for all of Congress. And that starting point is next Wednesday. So next Wednesday, he has already scheduled Senate Health, Education, and Labor and Pensions Committee hearings on reauthorization and replacement of what we know as No Child Left Behind. So I went then and reviewed, and I say this only to give the board confidence that we've looked into this thing. The minority senator on the House or the Senate committee from the state of Washington, Senator Murray, as well as several press releases and statements that Senator Alexander has put out. Also, the National School Board Association's issue brief on the subject. So, after reading through all of those, which was no small effort, we get around to the 3 documents that I've actually put in front of you. So, on the green page, you see the letter that I have suggested from the Board of Education, from the school board here, to Senator Alexander. I apologize, I could not get it under 2 pages, so I think 2 pages covers it. I draw your attention specifically to the numbered bullet points. Senator Alexander put forth these same bullet points in his release where he says we need to fix No Child Left Behind. So that is the orange page. You see his issue brief that states each of these topics in his words and what he would like to do on those. For ease of review, you have the white page, and the white page takes each of those. In black ink is Senator Alexander's effort, and in green ink is what I have put forward that the Rutherford County School Board might send as notification. So it's those 2 statements that we kind of compare and contrast, where we're supporting Senator Alexander, where we're suggesting to him, and where we might even take exception to what he has put forward. He is very interested, and one of his buzzwords is that we not have a national school board. And what he's really referencing there is that waiver process where the Department of Education, specifically the appointed Secretary of Education, has negotiated individually, state by state, and has not only allowed for waivers from what No Child Left Behind demands, but in offering those waivers and exceptions from that, he makes those conditional on adopting certain practices. And so, inasmuch, Senator Alexander suggests that he has become a national school board mandating policies across the nation from his seat in the Department of Education. Senator Alexander, probably of his highest priorities, is to eliminate that perception that there be a national school board and return the authority and jurisdiction to the state and local governments for regulating education.
Put in a lot of time and effort and organization on this, Mr. Holliday. Thank you. We before you represent us at the end of the month, correct?
Correct.
Where you'll go see our senators and our member of Congress. Members of the board, that'll give you 2 weeks to look through this, and any suggestions when we get back together in 2 weeks. I forgot what those dates are, Ms. Michaels. So probably the 26th, we will have some broad discussion during the work session and share some thoughts and guidance with Mr. Holliday before he goes to D.C.
The Republican perspective seems to continue an adoptive spirit in the direction of charter schools. Senator Alexander speaks of public charter schools in his legislation and in his briefs. And you'll see that school choice is something that he includes in here. I was as I went through this and took a look at it, I'm gonna kind of highlight one on page 2 of the white pages. Expands school choice for low-income parents. It allows states to let $14.5 billion in federal funding, or about $1,300 per low-income child, follow those children to the public school they attend, and encourage school districts to provide parents whose children attend low-performing schools with the option of transferring to another public school. As I read that, I just thought to myself, why don't we fix the low-performing school and just have quality education across the entire system? I mean, that's what we do here in Rutherford County. We just focus on, if we've got a low-performing school, let's make that thing outstanding. Let's put our very best effort in our most challenging situations and achieve greatness across the system. And then we don't have a problem in our system. And I think evidence of that is in Rutherford County, we don't have charter schools. I'm not saying that we're anti-charter schools. We just haven't seen the need for them yet, because we're committed as a board, we're committed as a system to answer the need and answer in a sufficient manner. So you see there the thoughts that I have, but at the end of that, choice is another quality that is best inspired within rather than granted from on high. If we need choice, it needs to be that we choose to achieve. We choose greatness, as opposed to somebody saying from above that you can choose to ignore a problem. And that's what a lot of charter schools do. They ignore a failing school and say, oh, we've got a better choice over here. So I hope the efforts I've made will please the board, and I'll certainly be interested in the response.
Typically, the low-income thing is a Title I, is usually what Congress is talking about here. Of course, we have 10 Title I schools, and we have school-wide Title I. Prior to school-wide Title I, they did something similar to this, and you had called targeted assisted. So the issue became that you would get in a school, and some kids would receive services, and another kid could not, based upon that income. I surely hope in their revising legislation that they look at this. I would not like to go back to that model. We've kind of been there. You can still use that if you want to, but there's it's a totally different thing than what we think of when we read this piece, that could happen. School-wide versus targeted assisted in weak construction, we can tell you more about that before you go if you'd like to know.
Again, thank you, Mr. Holliday. Mr. Hodge, we're going to talk about our General Assembly that kicked in this week.
Well, as I mentioned the other night, basically TSBA is pushing for just like 5 different bills that are going to be discussed or coming up, issues that are going to be put before them to vote on. So, as I mentioned the other night, maybe as a board, we would want to have a letter drafted in regards to our opposition addressed to our legislators
certainly could enlist the help of Mr. Reed, and that he's pretty good at correspondence. So,
And if there's any other issues that any board members want to bring up, bring it up, discuss it now if you want to.
yes, sir.
But, I think we need to do something. What our board members feel is critical. I hope suggestions or whatever the board wants to do.
Comments from the board?
It certainly is a very important topic, and standing against vouchers is absolutely a priority. And it is for me, it should be for our board, it should be for our county, and everything that we can do to echo that response. I know last year we used the school messenger system to draw attention to action that the board took, and were we to have one of these letters, I hope we would take similar steps to make sure that our parents understand what the board has done, and if they choose to echo those sentiments to the legislators, it comes from more than just the board, but from the entire community.
I would like to see us not bring too many points in one correspondence. Mr. Hodge, those things that you've already pointed out, I think are certainly, we certainly have to mention those now. And it may be that we may have to spoon feed our legislators a little bit, hit some very important topics today, and then in a few weeks write another letter. But if we list too many things, I think it gets lost with too many items at one time. So, but whatever the will of the board is certainly what we'll do. So,
I think Senator Alexander, former Secretary of Education and Governor, and a champion of some legislative reform in the state of Tennessee, which now I know was many years ago, but he championed that. It'd be hard to exaggerate his influence, I think, on the topic. And particularly when he just ran, and was elected. And I remember one of his commercials was, I think I can almost quote it, was tell Washington to keep their sticky fingers off of local control of education. I'm almost certain that's word for word. It's going to be hard to back down from that. Not that he's trying to back down for it, I don't mean that, but I mean he's clearly on the record. And something that Mr. Hodge said, and you also said, and this is this voucher and charter schools thing. The way to prevent that, and Ms. Talda, you put it very well, was just make sure there's no need for it. And if there's no need for it, it won't happen in your county. And I think it's fair for me to say that we were probably heading toward perhaps having a failing school or two, perhaps 5 or 6 years ago. We were getting pretty close. And the board, I certainly wasn't here, but I was on the commission at that time, fixed that under the leadership of this staff and Mr. Gill. And I think that's how you do it. I think that's how you do it. And if it's not funded, then of course you've clearly got a problem. What I really resent is that don't expect the Rutherford County taxpayers to save the Memphis, which has taken a lot of criticism. Don't expect our taxpayers to contribute and save the Memphis public schools. That's up to the citizens of Shelby County. Fix it. It's your problem. Fix it. And I really draw the line there that as far as us contributing and taking funds from our schools to fix theirs. I don't recall anybody sending us a check from any other county into here to help us fix ours. Maybe that's happened, but I don't believe so. I want to check the mail, Mr. Odom, see if we've gotten something. Maybe we did. I don't believe we did. So anyway, I think the way to avoid that, as I said, is just make sure you don't have a failing school. And so far, our system seems to be doing a pretty good job of that.
Unless I hear anything different, we will go with Mr. Hodges' suggestion and draft a letter with Mr. Reed's assistance to our representatives in the General Assembly, pointing out those issues that Mr. Hodges has already shared with us tonight. So unless I hear anything different, that's what we'll do.
I can't let it pass without echoing what Mr. Jordan has said and accentuating it. That's exactly right. If there is a problem in a metropolitan area that needs to be addressed, then our state legislature has already put in place the ability for a local education association, an LEA, that's what they refer to Rutherford County Schools as, to approach the State Board of Education and ask for a waiver. If that waiver were to take the form of, we need vouchers in our metropolitan area because we have a vibrant and robust private education opportunity that we think would do a better job than our public, then do that in a waiver. But to pass legislation of any form or nature that even specifies only in this municipality or that municipality or something of that nature, it places the entire aspect of vouchers one court decision away from saying, I'm a citizen of Tennessee just like somebody else. Why can't I have that voucher because I happen to live in Crossville or I happen to live in Lewisburg? And even though they may not be part of that legislation, that voucher is a court decision away from coming in their direction. When or if that were to happen, then we're looking at special interest schools. Define special interest schools however you want to. It is not right for public education. Taxpayer dollars for special interest schools. Just not right for public education. And that's why you've got to have a broader, long-range perspective. That's why we need our legislators from Rutherford County to stand against vouchers.
We are all advocates, and we've never needed to be more so than we do today. So we'll continue that. Okay. Mr. Odom, you are going, we're into general discussion, and I'm going to give it to Mr. Odom before anybody else about a presentation. A signing process you were involved in a few days ago.
I was involved with a process at Blackman High School with signing an agreement, a memorandum of understanding with Middle Tennessee State University. Talk a little bit about that, but I want to say that one of the things is earning college credits while you're in high school, and that's not new to Rutherford County. Laverne High School last year had over 800 college credits earned at Laverne High School by their teachers, some off-site at places like Motlow and things like that. And all of our high schools are doing some of that. Dr. John Ash was here a few moments ago, and he told me his daughter carried 22 college credits when she left high school. And I said something to maybe 2 years ago. I think some of this board, the future of education will be more and more students will be earning college credits before they leave high school. That's going to be a lot of the future. A number of ways that's done. Advanced placement classes is one. You take the test and enroll in that. One is called dual credit. Dual credit is typically taught that the college you use the materials, the syllabus from maybe a college class taught by one of your high school teachers, and then the college honors that credit. And then the other one is dual enrollment, where the student literally enrolls in a university or college and is still enrolled in high school at the same time. And that's a little bit more expensive, a little bit more cost, but there's some things happening with the Collegiate Academy and the Tennessee Board of Regents that's doing. The idea for the Collegiate Academy really came from the staff at Blackman High School. Principal Dr. Lisa Justice had part of this in her mind. You know, I'd like to kind of brand us, look at how we can rebrand, how we can emphasize higher academics and that sort of thing. And she had collected over several months. The faculty, the staff were meeting, and they came up with a a model of what they might do. Well, the Daily News Journal kind of picked up on this and heard about that they were planning a collegiate academy and published it in the Daily News Journal. And Dr. McPhee, Sidney McPhee, is the president of Middle Tennessee State University, told me that he happened to be away on a weekend or something at his cabin or somewhere that he was, and he picked up the News Journal and saw it and says, "My goodness, I want to be a part of this." And so he called up Dr. Justice on the phone then and said, "Can I be a part of this to do that?" And so I guess the marriage kind of started from there between MTSU and Blackman. It involves several things, and the high school principals had a presentation. We have our PLCs for our principal groups, K5, 6-8, 9-12. And 9-12 met this week, and so they heard a presentation about the Collegiate Academy, looking at what parts they could do and that sort of thing and extract from it. But they have to make application, and interestingly, the application deadline is for Blackman students at this time, and it's January the 19th. They've already had a parent application. They opened actually December the 8th, the online application. They had had a parent meeting. A large number of 8th grade parents and students came that night to see what's this about, what's involved in it. So after that meeting, a lot of excitement on the staff, and so they have made the application process. They're doing interviews. The estimate was that maybe 150 or so initially might enter that. The requirements to receive the distinguished honor from the Collegiate Academy, they're going to require some classes. It's more than the state. For instance, a speech class, public service hours that they have to do. One of the reasons that they're doing speech is that the student that's graduating from this Collegiate Academy will have to make a presentation to the faculty advisors in this. So it's a little bit like defending yourself in the dissertation or something like that. But I think it's a lot of STEM focus, a lot of things that include CTE and all. But I think it's just a good example of another one of our high schools looking at ways to draw them in. Our other high schools, the Megatronics is taken off. You've been reading about that. And again, about all of the AP and dual credit, dual enrollment, 800 and at Laverne High School, and many, many more at other places. A large number of credits earned by Central Magnet students there. So parents, if you're listening, or grandparents, if you're listening, the opportunities for your children in high school now is wide open. Talk to your guidance counselor, talk to your principals. Look for ways that you can have a dual enrollment or dual credit, that you may earn some of these credits free, that you might have to pay for later on. That's a wonderful thing to think about. Tennessee Promise is one of those things. I read today, you were talking about the account, there's 292 or something advisors for Tennessee Promise in Rutherford County. They had a count, and something like 2,600 students. So they're pretty close to that 1 to 10. That was a summary that came out today. So the Tennessee Promise, the monies that follow that for students to enroll, that can be before they get out of high school. Students on Hope scholarships, if they have the GPA for that, then between their junior and senior years, they can use those monies, and it doesn't reduce their Hope scholarship monies. That's an interesting thing in it, because they don't start reducing that till they get out of high school. So there's so many opportunities for students now to earn college credit in high school. And it's out there at all of our high schools. You just talk to your guidance department, talk to your people there, and you're going to be surprised what's available. Now, is it going to be rigorous? Yes, in most cases, because you're going to be wanting college credit. And so the level and the expectation level is going to be raised some. But you can do it, and we'll provide the support to help you do that. Any other questions any of you have? And we can do a focus one night and let them come and talk about the Collegiate Academy. I was reading here on their timeline, like January 8th, they're going to have acceptance letters mailed out. We might pick a time right after that, see how many have been in the first round, because it's basically going to be next year's freshmen and sophomores, because there's a lot of things that they will do as juniors and seniors, but they build towards that, in the collegiate academy, towards that particular diploma. So we can invite them later, which might be a good idea after it kind of gets in place for you to hear more about that. Sure. Another thing we might take a look at, Mr. Sandvig has prepared for you another 5-year building program sheet that really deals, the change is the Eagleville land. You want to kind of address the changes as they look at that? This is the colored sheet, spreadsheet.
Yes. The only change between that and the last version y'all saw, we had $285,000 for the Eagleville practice land, practice fields based on the other parcel of land we were looking at that point. We've changed that number to $64,000, the $44,000 covered in the amendment y'all approved tonight, and an additional $20,000 for site issues, running water to it, entry, those types of things.
We talked about there, maybe when you look at the land, there might have to be some pretty good land. I mean, flat, may have to do some sprigging if you're going to practice football on it to add to that. Have to look at a way to tap it. You can water it like the other practice field was. So that's why we're going to request the $20,000 so that we can try to make that usable for them relatively quickly. So that's the change.
Has this been sent to Health Ed?
We want you to see it tonight, and we're ready for it to go. As far as I know, we can send it on off tomorrow if you want to, as Mr. Jordan suggested.
I think we on the 64,000, the $20,000 to prepare that site. I think we owe them some consideration to getting them back to where they were before with the other piece of property, and we've done that with other construction over the years. Some athletic, some not. But to get somebody back, that land's going to have to be irrigated. I mean, it's going to have a water system to it of some sort. And I've never seen a piece of land yet that was absolutely level for anything. It always had to be prepared. So there's probably some grading. Am I right on that? Something's going to have to probably some. It's pretty flat, isn't it?
All the irrigation that's needed, but it'll provide for sprigging with Bermuda and that type of stuff, so it'll be a good playable surface. And there's not a lot of improvement. $20,000 doesn't go a long way, but at least it's an effort to try to get them back to some semblance of what it was before.
Okay.
The other thing that I had this evening, we had a discussion about our attendance, percentage attendance, that sort of thing, Tuesday evening when we met. And one of the things that you asked me to do was, could we break down, talking about the tardies, could we break down and see of those high school grades 9, 10, 11, and 12, is there a pattern, anything there that we might see? And instead of doing it for one day, I decided to do it for 5 days in case there was some event or something that day that might make that stand out. And this was some of our colder weather times, so I think the numbers of tardies are a little bit higher. Another footnote that I placed on this, in the software that we're using now, even if a student leaves early, if you got to go to a dental appointment at 2 o'clock and school's not out till 2:30, it will tag you as in the tardy numbers, technically. It doesn't separate early dismissal from tardy. So it's any event that takes you out for part of the day. You kind of show up in that number. But it's kind of interesting. It looks like our seniors miss the most. They're the ones driving themselves in general. And second place was kind of 11th grade. And the others, actually freshmen and sophomore, were very, very close in that. But it's just kind of an interesting thing to look at.
Okay, we are still in general discussion.
Is this something you think we'll continue to track? And just kind of
We can track it at any time for a number of periods, as long as it's in the data. You just set the date range, and I can track it. Well, it'll be interesting to see when the weather warms, how that changes.
Yeah, I don't know how you would associate a cost with this or anything, but I know there's got to be some kind of cost factor here with.
Not greatly, as long as they're there for roughly 3 hours and 16 minutes. The average daily membership, they do not fund us on an average daily attendance like they used to. There's average daily transported, riding buses, we have to turn in those counts, there's some funding for that. There's some mixture for average daily attendance, but a few years ago, the state switched to average daily membership because even if a child is not there that day and happens to be ill, you gotta have a textbook and a desk in the classroom and that sort of thing. So school systems ask to be funded on ADM. And so even though a child might be out with the flu or sick for a number of days, on average daily membership, that funding will still come because you have to save the place and all to do it. So not as critical as it once was.
Just referring back to my manufacturing days and thinking how this would interrupt me if I was trying to prepare a day for work, and it just seems like a high percentage, 21%.
It is. It interrupts learning for that student. It's actually not 21. It is actually 21. It's not 20% of the students. It's 21% of the total number of tardies are attributed to the freshmen, and 21.5 of the total tardies attributed to the 10th grade. There's not that percentage of students.
That makes me feel a little better.
Because like in grade 9, you know, we have right at probably 2,500 to 3,000 students, 9th grade students, probably close to 3,000 in that grade. But it's still a significant number when you stop and look at it. But that was over 3 days. So if you took the 3,000 and multiplied by 5 days, that becomes 15,000. So statistically, you'd be looking 791 versus 15,000, I guess.
I hate to even pick a school out, so let me just do it this way. Okay, Smyrna High School. And I want you to tell me if I'm reading this right. 527 people in this in these 5 days were missed. They were either late to school or that they missed some portion of that school day. Doctor's appointment, went home sick, left early. Is that? And we're not talking about
Absence.
We're not talking about absence.
No, the sheet that I gave you the other day did have excused and unexcused absences. These are people who actually did come to school.
Okay.
Part of the day.
Okay, and this is probably a foolish question, but that's never stopped me before, so I'll ask it anyway. This is not late for second period or late for fourth period. This is late.
No, it shouldn't be because that's an internal thing.
Okay.
This happens. The software literally, if a student comes in late, you see that sign up front, you must check by the office or go by the attendance office. They go in and check, and you enter, you know, school started at 8:30, you're here at 8:50, and you put in the time of day, and it does a calculation to see where you are on that 3 hours and 16 minutes. The problem is if they don't attend 3 hours and 16 minutes, we average daily attendance, we do lose, and they're still tardy, it'll still count that way, but you won't have the average daily attendance for the day.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Holliday?
Next week, we've got a policy meeting, and I know that the agenda for that is in development. Pardon this unexpected question, I always hate to do that, but we've had a couple of students from Oakland High School come to the board, and when I saw the brochure about the Collegiate Academy at Blackman, I noticed in here special recognition at a graduation for participation in the Collegiate Academy. It brought back to mind that the Oakland High students, and more than one, have come to the board and said, there's a nuance about, you know, what we're doing and what we're concentrating on, and I can't qualify for the highest recognition in graduation accolades unless I'm, you know, this, but I'm an athlete, and you know, those kind of things. I can go back and look at notes and such, but that issue Are we familiar with it? And it's on the agenda? Okay, great. All right.
And let me give you, let me give you something to begin to think about before we kind of get to that meeting. What they're talking about, the state created the distinguished. You have an honors diploma, and the distinguished diploma from the state board created that and listed what things that you could do to earn that distinguished diploma. And there's a listing. It's on the state board site. It's one of their rules and regulations. There is power in the law for local boards to add things to that. My only caution to you, regardless of whatever we look at or the discussion goes, the intent of that policy was not time, but distinguishing characteristics, be it academic and other things. But we need, one of the things, Ms. McLeod, we probably need to print as a thing for when we do it next week, for let them see what the state board included in their distinguished diploma. I mean, it's available online, and we'll look at it. And so as you look at it, think about what you want to call distinguished. We have to be careful that we don't open the door too wide to what's really a distinguished honor. I mean, is it academic? Is it academic and athletic, or what is it? You know, we'll whatever we decide, we'll have to be consistent. So it's serious for us to think about.
I guess that's one question that I have. One of the things in the federal legislation is more empowerment, more empowerment, more empowerment to even the building principal. And as I read that in the federal legislation and then I thought about this issue, it crossed my mind, and I'm not saying it's a good idea, but it crossed my mind, is the program so unique at Central Magnet School and at Blackman Collegiate Academy, at Laverne Dual Enrollment Academy, at Oakland IB program, is the program so unique at each one of our facilities? Is it so knit into the fiber of the community, because we see more and more now the Collegiate Academy at Blackman High incorporating in community service, the Tennessee Promise requiring community service? Is it so unique building by building that we may even want to say that we trust our principal to decide what is a distinguished honor? I'm not suggesting that we should do that, but it crosses my mind as we talk.
I don't know that we can assign it.
Okay.
I mean, because the board can add criteria that will earn you that, but we'll do a little research with those rules and regs. But they did give local boards, but I'm not sure if you don't have some of these other, and you may have, when you look at it, you may have to have 2 or 3 of these things to do it. It's not just necessarily that you've done one thing, and you have to make some decision how that works. It's a little bit more complex than when you first think about it.
Sure. Yeah.
Anything else tonight?
I want to bring up something, Mr. Chairman. When Ms. Michaels sent Ms. Moore and Mr. Estes and myself to Nashville for the 67 days of orientation, no, it was 2, sorry. It was 2 days of orientation, where I might point out, you promised us no Nashville traffic, that would not be a problem, and it was a serious problem. But anyway, we said that there were 100 people there, and I know these 2 board members a lot better now than I did before those 2 days, and it was extremely beneficial, being serious. It was very beneficial. There were 100 new board members there, and that was twice as large. Isn't that right, Mr. Estes? Twice as large as any they'd ever had. Matter of fact, Mr. Bennett, who was here on your evaluation, was one of our instructors, but there were numerous, I don't know, 6, 7, I guess, Ms. Moore, I guess, wasn't it? Probably people that helped us out. But we sat with, they had the same seats every day, and we sat with Cumberland County, three people from, all new board members from Cumberland County. One of them had served and then came back and was off for a while and then came back and was elected. And they brought up something to us that just absolutely fascinated me, and I don't know. I understand it has come up in this room before, but perhaps it's been a while. I don't know. They had student representatives from each of their high schools, of which, if I believe, they had 3. Now, I think they had like 12 schools total in Cumberland County. At any rate, they were really just very impressed with those youngsters and how they conducted themselves. And they came to all the meetings, work session as I understand it, and the regular meeting, and contributed if need be, and answered questions about how a policy or how whatever might affect them, or things that they were interested in the school board doing. And I ended up asking them some questions. I think the other two board members perhaps did as well. They were selected by the principal. In this particular case, they were all three of the youngsters were seniors. They provided a place for them to sit behind the staff and talk before. And I got to thinking about that, and there's another side to this. Really, when you do that if a principal selects somebody, and I told them, I said, what I would fear is that I didn't want the captain of the football team. I mean, first of all, he probably couldn't come to all the meetings. And I would not be necessarily interested in the president of the student body, you know. I wanted a really sound, common sense, solid youngster with good grades that might do that. And they said that in all cases that it had worked for them. And they were extremely positive about how it went. And I thought maybe another step on this, and I'm about through here, is that when you do that, if we did that or when they do that, they're really developing three leaders. They're developing three people to perhaps do whatever, well, you know, in their future. But it's also it's as much for that youngster as it is for the school board, and that's why I'm bringing it up now. And I'm not necessarily suggesting that we do that, or I'm just kind of looking for discussion if it's something that we might want to consider for the fall of 2016. We could try it or not. I'm not smart enough to go much further with this, but y'all are, so I thought I'd at least say something about it. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
Just something for us to consider, and possibly maybe at a work session, our next work session, have a discussion and bring somebody from TSBA that has had some involvement, or maybe ask a member of, like the Cumberland board, to come and we have some conversation with them. So, but I'll reach out to some other boards that are doing that and see what they say and how it's worked for them, and then report back to the board at our next meeting, if that's okay.
Dr. Washington sent out today, you know, the TSBA has a day that student representatives can come from high schools, scope, to participate in it. I think some of you may have gone last year to that. So I did see Dr. Washington send that out. The application period is coming up. That we would fund, if it's about $60 per student, we'd up to 2 per high school if students are interested. The issue is it happens to be on a day that school's out, that TSB has scheduled it, so that may affect it in some way. So that process is out there for students who are interested can apply for that. Also, the Chamber of Commerce Youth Leadership Rutherford is out, the applications. I sent, that was going to be in the paper, I think, tomorrow, some information about that a little bit more. But I'd love to see students from all of our high schools take advantage to that. That's a great opportunity to learn about Rutherford County. So I sent that to all the principals today to make sure they get that out to guidance counselors again to apply for that.
I would encourage our board. I have been a part of the scope, been a scope moderator, I guess, ever since I've been on the board. And it's a thoroughly enjoyable experience watching these students basically act out with issues that they've been presented with as a board. And you'll have, of the students, part will be board members, part will be interested parents, it's really a lively discussion, and it's interesting to watch them as they work through the issues and make their votes too. And then the second part of the program is a debate, and each class has two representatives either defending or not a particular issue. So if you're interested in, and it's a lot more fun now because it's being held at MTSU rather than the TSU campus down on Charlotte, which I know you wouldn't want to drive there, Mr. Jordan, because of the traffic. And but I would encourage you to be involved with the scope program, and I hope we have several members of our high schools that are involved in it too. It's very beneficial, and it's a lot of fun too. So, and thank you for making them go, Mrs. Michaels, because it is statute that they attend. So we didn't want to have lawbreakers right out of the gate for our new board. All right. Anything else to come before this board tonight? We've had a lot. We had a lot in a short period. Okay. Without any further ado, we stand adjourned.